So let us proceed. The cognitive theory of development of Jean Piaget. This is another one theory under the sociocultural theories of learning. And as you can see here, it is shown that our behavior is affected or influenced or determined to a very great extent by the kind of cognitive stimulation that we get from the people around us, especially adults. When we speak of cognitive stimulation, these are the stimulus that we see, we perceive around us. When somebody tries to talk to us, that is an example of a cognitive stimulation. Why? Because when somebody talks to us, we are forced to answer. We are forced to think of an answer. So cognitive stimulation. The behavior of children as they grow up, as already mentioned, is influenced or shaped to a great degree by the cognitive stimulation they get from their environment. Okay, so according to Jean Piaget, our professor pronounced this Jean Piaget. Kung daw yan eh. Friends. Did I spell it right? Parang P-I yan, hindi P-A. Okay, check na lang po natin. No? Nakalagay na po sa ating PowerPoint presentation. I'm not sure if I spelled it correctly. Baka na misspell ko siya. No? I-check po natin yan. Okay, so to continue, according to Piaget, there are 4 stages of cognitive development. The first is the sensory motor stage, followed by the pre-operational stage, then concrete operational stage, and then formal operational stage. In providing cognitive stimulation, content, materials, and activities, these adults reflect the culture and their corresponding artifacts. The kind of cognitive stimulation we get from the people around us is determined by our culture. Halimbawa, in learning a language, what language do we usually learn first? Naturally, the language that is spoken at home. Why do these people, the family members, speak this language? Because that is the language. It's part of their culture. So that is how they speak. And the way they speak, the words they use, the way they express themselves, all of these things are gradually absorbed and learned by the individual. And so later, the individual, the child, the learner, will show, will display, will manifest the same behavior. Meaning, he will speak the same language until he learns another language and prefers to use it instead of his first language. So, ganun po yon. So, this is still all about the influence of outside forces, particularly culture, on human development. No? So, let us see. So, as already mentioned, the 4 stages of cognitive development according to Piaget. I think this one is the correct spelling, no? P-I-A-G-E-T. Are the following: sensory-motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, formal operational stage. So, okay, let us start. Let us discuss the first stage of cognitive development according to Piaget. Okay, so the first of these 4 stages, as already mentioned, is sensory-motor stage, which lasts from birth to about 2 years of age. This stage of development is all about the child, the infant, trying to understand his immediate environment. And because he is very young, naturally his knowledge of the world, his understanding of the world is limited only to those things that he can perceive through his senses. Kaya nga tinawag siyang sensory motor stage. Because only the things he can perceive through his senses are understandable to him. He is not yet capable of understanding, much less processing, abstract or hypothetical ideas. Bata-bata pa niya, infant. Only the things he can see, only the things he can hear, taste, feel, or smell. Those are the things that he can understand and process. His movements are limited to simple motor activities. Simple holding of objects, standing alone by holding on to a piece of furniture, beginning to use his speech mechanisms in learning a language or in beginning to speak a language. His behaviors are limited to simple motor responses caused by sensory stimuli. The child hears something loud, he reacts by being startled. No? Parang siya ay nasa-surprise. He sees, bright light, he squints or covers his eyes. He smells something pungent or undesirable to him, he covers his nose. Things like those, no? Simple motor responses. Simple games, close, open. Masayang laruin yan sa mga bata, no? One very important development in this stage is the development of object permanence. This is one of the most important accomplishments in this stage of development. Now, what is object permanence? Object permanence is the child's understanding that an object or a person continues to exist even if that person or object is removed from his sight. He knows, he understands that an object still continues to exist in time and space even if he cannot see it. He knows that his mother still continues to exist even if he can no longer see his mother because he has left to go to the market to buy some groceries. Alam niyo kasi, before the development of object permanence, the child thinks that an object no longer exists if it is no longer seen. Say for example, you are playing with the infant. Halimbawa, you are using a toy or a ball, no? So naglalaro kayong dalawa, gamit nyo yung ball. The moment you hide the ball from his sight and the child can no longer see it, he thinks that the ball no longer exists. Wala na yung bola. Wala na yun sa mundo. Hindi na nag-exist. Kasi hindi niya nakikita. That is how a child thinks before the development of object permanence. Kaya tuwang-tuwa yung mga bata. When you play with them, anong game ba yung you cover your face with your peekaboo. Yan, peekaboo. You cover your face with your hands, so the child can no longer see your face. So what he thinks is that you no longer exist. Because he cannot see your face. Sa isip niya, wala ka na sa mundo, you do not exist anymore. And then you remove your hands from your face, and then your face is suddenly exposed to the child. All of a sudden, he can see you again. What does he do? He smiles, he laughs, he giggles. He's very happy because he thinks that suddenly you have reappeared. You have re-existed. Dati ay nandyan ka, tapos nawala ka, so he does not care anymore. He does not laugh, he does not react, he does not do anything because in his mind, you do not exist anymore. And then all of a sudden, you exist again. So tuwang-tuwa ka. Yun po ang way of thinking of infants before the development of object permanence. Kaya sila iyak ng iyak when the mother or the father leaves the house. Akala nila wala na si nanay, wala na si tatay. They do not exist anymore. However, with the development of object permanence, the child knows and understands that the ball is still there. Hindi lang niya makita, pero mayroon pa ring bola. It still exists. Hindi niya nakikita si nanay kasi pumunta ng palengke. And the father went to the farm or to the office or to school. So the child knows that the father, the mother, will come back later and he will see them again. Hindi na niya iniisip na wala na sa mundo ang mga bagay na yan at mga tao because of object permanence. Yun po ang ibig sabihin ng object permanence, and as already mentioned a while ago, this is one of the most important accomplishments at this stage of development. Okay, let us proceed. Second one, the second stage, the preoperational stage, which lasts from 2 years or begins from 2 years old and lasts until approximately 6 years old. Based from our experiences, based from our observations, what are the most notable developments among children age 2? Among 2-year-old children, ano yung pinaka-common nating nanonotice? The development of language. At the age of 2, a baby is expected to be able to talk. Dapat siya ay nagsasalita na. Simple words, sometimes even simple phrases and sentences. No? If the child does not say anything at all, if the child does not speak or talk at all at the age of 2, something might be wrong with his development. So, during the pre-operational stage, language development is established. Yeah. Okay. They do not yet understand concrete logic. They are not very good in reasoning. They cannot mentally manipulate information. And that is why they need to write simple math problems in order to compute them. They find it difficult to mentally process information. They also find it difficult to understand the point of view of other people. This is what we call egocentrism. Egocentrism. They believe that what they say, what they think, what they believe in is the right one. No. They are incapable of taking the point of view of another person. Yun bang ilalagay nila ang kanilang sarili sa lugar ng isang tao, and they will look at things from that point of view. They are incapable of that. I don't know if you have already noticed this among children. Say for example, there are 3 or 4 of them, and they are talking to each other. No? they appear to be speaking to each other, but listen to them very closely. Most of the time, their stories, their statements do not jibe with one another. There are three of them, and they are talking about three different topics. Halimbawa, si Juan, si Pedro, and then si Pablito. Sabi ni Juan, "Oh, my father is arriving from Manila tomorrow. Tiyak na marami na namang pasalubong si Daddy." Sabi ni Pedro, "Magtatanim ako ng kangkong bukas, no? According to my brother, kangkong is a very good vegetable." Tapos magsasalita naman yung third character natin, si Pablito. "Nakakatakot talaga ang pinanood naming movie kagabi. No. It's a horror movie and I was really scared." But when you look at them from a distance, you will think that they are really talking to each other in the real sense of the word. They really appear to be speaking to one another. But when you listen closely, you will find out that they are simply expressing what they think without regard, without consideration, and without any care about what the other two persons are saying. Wala silang, what do you call this? Wala silang concern, walang pakialam about what the two other persons are saying. Basta kwento lang siya ng kwento tungkol sa kanyang sarili. He is unable to take the point of view of another person. Sa kanyang isip ay siya lang ang may experiences and another person cannot have the same experiences. Yeah. Egocentrism, centered on the self. It is also in this stage where children become adept, meaning they become very good at using symbols. They are very good at pretending. Children at this stage of development are very good at make-believe games. O, di ba? O, laro tayo ng bahay-bahayan. Kunyari ako ang tatay. Ikaw naman ang nanay. Itong isa anak natin yan. This is very common among children. No? Kunyari, dito tayo nakatira. Yan, may alaga tayong aso. Yung aso nila ay yung stuffed toy. But in their minds, it's really a real dog. You know? They can create a world of their own. And in their minds, this imaginary world can be very, very real. Ganyan po katindi ang imagination ng mga bata. Especially in the pre-operational stage of development. They are very good at pretending to be doctors. O sige, ako ang doktor ha, ikaw ang pasyente. Lagyan kita ng stethoscope. Talikod, lagyan kita ng stethoscope. Ubo. Yung bata, siyempre naglalaro sila. Ubo. Sabi ng bata, pretending to be the doctor, hindi ko nakuhang mabuti yun. O sige, ulitin mo, ubo pa, lakasan mo. Ubo. And then after 4 or 5 repetitions, sabi ng bata, pretending to be the patient, "Dok, ano ba ang sakit ko?" Sabi ng bata na doktor, alam ko na, meron kang ubo. And then, resitahan siya ng gamot kunyari. Ito, inumin mo ito ha, 5 times a day. That is how they create their own imaginary world. And that is one way of processing symbols. No? Okay, let us proceed to the next. Concrete operational stage, which begins around age 7 and continues until about 11 years old. Okay. At this stage, children have better understanding of mental operations because they are already a little bit matured. They are now mentally capable of understanding and processing information. They can perform simple operations, mathematical computations, mentally. They can process information without necessarily writing them down, without having to look at pictures. Yan, mental processing or cognitive processing. Okay. They begin to think logically about concrete events. Yung concrete events, events that actually happen. Events that happen in reality. Events that they can perceive with their senses. Yan, we call these concrete events. They can think logically about concrete events, no? Halimbawa, one of their friends climbed, say, a mango tree, and then the friend stepped on a small branch, and the branch was unable to bear or carry his weight. So he fell to the ground. He fell. Siyempre, pag magpo-fall sa ground talaga, no, alangan namang papuntang sky. So he fell. He can process that information. His friend fell because the branch cannot bear or carry his weight. Pero pag mga hypothetical concepts, nahihirapan pa silang i-process yan. What are these hypothetical concepts? These are what-if statements. Hypothetical because they do not happen, they have not yet happened in reality. They are not concrete. So for example, what if the moon disappears? Nahirapan silang i-process yung ganong statement because it is hypothetical. It does not happen in reality. They can still see the moon. No? Yun ang mga hypothetical concepts. Yung mga what-if statements ba, they find it difficult to process such statements. And then, they understand new concepts through the use of familiar examples. They can process information if they are given concrete examples. Examples that they find examples that they experience in real life. And that is why I have always emphasized in my classes that when we teach, we should draw examples from real life experiences as much as possible and connect them or correlate them to the lesson so that the learners will be able to grasp or understand them. Mas madali pong nauunawaan, lalo na sa mga bata, yung mga bagay na nakikita nila sa kanilang everyday experiences. So if say for example sa science, your new lesson, new topic is about, say, gravity. The concept of gravity is a little bit too heavy or too big for young children to absorb and process. They might find it difficult to understand that heavenly bodies, gigantic, ginormous heavenly bodies can attract one another because of gravitational forces. Nahirapan pa silang i-grasp yun, understand. They find it difficult to process such information. They find it difficult to understand that. So what do? We correlate it to something that is common to them, to something that they have experienced. So say for example, instead of going directly to gravity, you introduce them to that concept of attraction between objects by talking about magnets. Yung mga bata naglalaro ng magnet yan eh. So, you introduce the concept of attraction between objects through magnets or by using magnets as examples. So sa halip na pupunta ka dun sa class, do you understand? Do you know that the earth and the sun attract each other? They have gravitational forces that attract each other. Maaring yun ay napakalaking konsepto para sa mga bata na i-absorb. So you start with a simple concept. Simple but familiar and similar concepts. Mag-uumpisa ka ng kwento sa magnet. Mga bata, di ba, naglalaro kayo ng magnets? Sinong may magnets? Kami, sir, may mga magnet. Kasi sinira namin yung aming radyo. Kinuha yung magnet. Oh, ano nangyayari? If you put a piece of metal near the magnet, halimbawa ay pako or nail, anong nangyayari mga bata? Sir, hinihigop niya or binabatak niya or lumalapit or dumidikit doon sa magnet. Bakit nangyari yung class? Because the magnet has a certain force that pulls metals towards it. Yan. Introduce mo na ngayon yung concept of gravity. Alam niyo mga bata, itong moon at saka earth, katulad lang yan ng inyong magnets. Mayroon silang force. They have this force that pull objects towards them. Parang magnet nga, di ba? Hinila nung magnet yung pako. Ganon din ang earth. Hinihila niya ang moon. Sir, bakit hindi sila nagbabanggaan? Bakit hindi dumidikit sa earth yung moon? Hindi mag-explain ka naman. Alam nyo kasi, class, the moon also possesses a gravitational force that pulls the earth towards it. So nagbabatakan silang dalawa. They pull each other towards themselves. And because the gravitational forces are so balanced that neither of them succeeds in pulling the other towards them, they stay in their orbit. Balancing-balanse ang kanilang gravitational force. Hindi nahihigop ng earth ang moon, hindi rin nahihigop ng moon ang earth. Balanse sila. So, hindi sila dumidikit, hindi sila nagbabanggaan. They stay in their respective orbits. Talaga ba, sir? Mayroong gravitational pull ang earth, binabatak niya? Totoo yan, Buknoy. O ito ang ballpen, Buknoy. Tapon mo sa taas. Pinakabalibang ni Buknoy, paibabaw. What will happen to the pen? Well, naturally, it will go back to Earth. Alam nga namang diretso na siya sa Jupiter. Nalaglag, nahulog na ngayon yung pen. Ayan, Buknoy. Why do you think did the pen fall back to Earth? Why did it not go to the moon or Jupiter or Saturn? Yeah. I-introduce mo yung concept na hinihila ng Earth yung mga objects papunta sa kanya. That force is called gravity. So what I'm trying to say here, class, is that in teaching a complex concept which might be too difficult for young children to comprehend or to understand or to process, let us start with simple examples, familiar examples, so that the children can see or relate to these experiences and they can understand the big concept, the big lesson, little by little, because of the way you introduce the big concepts to them. You use familiar and simple examples. Yan. So lahat po yan ay nangyayari sa concrete operational stage of cognitive development. That's according to Piaget. Okay, let us proceed. It is in this stage that children understand conservation concepts. Conservation. things remain the same, no? Conservation. Yung, halimbawa, you have a glass of, say, juice. Nakalagay siya sa isang mababang baso, mababa pero malaki, no? Inilipat mo yung juice sa isang mataas pero makitid na baso. Naisipin ng bata na lumaki yung juice. Kasi mas mataas na siya ngayon. Or if you do the opposite, from the tall but thin glass, no? Mataas yung baso pero makitid lang yung kanyang diameter. Hindi siya kalakihan. So pag ililipat natin siya sa mababang baso na malapad, naturally, bababa siya kasi malapad yung baso eh. But the amount of liquid, the volume of liquid is exactly the same. Yan. They begin to understand that. Kasi before this stage, akala ng mga bata, kapag nagbago ng shape yung liquid, it's either increased in volume or decreased in volume. Pagdating sa stage na ito, alam na ng mga bata, naunawaan na niya, parehong dami lang ng juice yan. Bumaba kasi mababa yung baso. Or tumaas kasi mataas yung baso. Yan. Children begin to understand the concept of conservation in this stage of development. So we proceed to the next stage of development. According to Piaget, formal formal operational stage, which starts from the age of 12 to adulthood. Okay. It is in this stage that individuals achieve maturity, no? It is here that they think about abstract concepts. Ito mga abstract concepts, class, these are concepts, these are ideas that exist only in the mind as opposed to concrete objects. Halimbawa, a stone or rock is a concrete object. It exists in time and space. You can hold it. You can feel it. No? You can use your senses to perceive it. A ball pen is a concrete object. A road is a concrete object. A tree. Lahat ng mga nakikita natin sa palibot natin, they are concrete objects. Abstract concepts are ideas. They exist only in the mind. Halimbawa, faith. It's an example of an abstract concept because it only exists in the mind. Kapag ikaw ay nagkaklase in front of, say, grade 3 or grade 4 pupils, you can easily make them understand concrete objects. Halimbawa, anong magandang object ang gawin natin example? A musical instrument. Halimbawa, gitara. Madaling ipaliwanag sa kanila kung ano yung gitara. Dala ka lang ng gitara eh. So they can see the guitar, they can feel the guitar, they can even pluck or strum the instrument na piperceive nila through their senses. Concrete object siya eh. So madali nilang maunawaan kung ano yung guitar. What is a guitar? What is it for? What does it do? How it sounds? Madali yun sa kanila. May actual na gitara eh. Concrete eh. Ikumpara mo yun sa pagtuturo ng faith. Yung gitara pwede mong ipakita sa kanila. Class, this is a guitar. Mga bata, ito ay gitara. Suppose you are teaching an abstract concept like faith. Mga bata, this is faith. Mga bata, ito ay pananampalataya. Ito, hawak ko sa aking kamay. Nasaan dyan, sir? Hindi pwede yung ganon. So, it is difficult for children before this stage to understand or comprehend abstract concepts dito sa formal operational stage nangyayari yun. Logical thought, deductive reasoning. Logical thought is the use of reason, no, in thinking. Yun namang deductive reasoning, reasoning from general to particular. Yeah. You give a general statement first, parang all planets revolve around the sun. Yun. It's a general statement. The Earth is a planet, and so therefore, the Earth revolves around the sun. Yeah. Deductive reasoning yun. Magagaling na ang mga batang nasa ganitong stage of development in deductive reasoning. They can make plans for the future. No? Eh, pag ikaw ay infant or nasa pre-operational stage of development, they are not very good in making plans. They are not very good in planning. They are not very good in systematic planning kasi nga hindi pa sila nagmamature. Whereas before, children cannot take the point of view of another and they find it difficult to process hypothetical statements. In this stage of development, the formal operational stage, they are now able to take the point of view of another person, to understand his opinion, to understand his feelings. And it is also in this stage that they learn how to process hypothetical statements. Makakapagpaliwanag na sila regarding what-if statements. Halimbawa, what if we change our form of government? What do you think will happen? Makakapagbigay na yan sila ng sagot. No? What if the moon goes out of its orbit? What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen if the moon goes too near the earth? Hypothetical statements, no? And of course, it is also in this stage that they learn how to use symbols and abstract ideas, even if they do not experience it in reality, even if they do not experience it firsthand. Halimbawa, solve mathematical equations. Nagagawa na nila yan. Whereas before, they can hardly process even simple math problems. Kasi nga, batang-bata pa. Yung iba nga, sa formal operational stage na, nahihirapan pa rin. No? Sa mathematics. That is a very common experience among people in general. No? Maswerte yung mga magagaling sa mathematics. No? They can process numbers and solve complex mathematical equations. Yung mga magagaling sa math, yung mga nag-i-engineer, yung mga accountant, nakakabilib yung mga taong yan. Okay? To review, the 4 stages of cognitive development according to Jean Piaget are as follows. Sensory-motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. Okay. Let's continue. Ethology, number 3. Evolutionary and sociobiological. Teka, bakit number 3 kaagad tayo? Ano ba yung number 3? Bakit nakarating tayo dyan? What's number 1? And what's number 2? Review po tayo. Remember, we are talking about the different perspectives in human development. The different theories that can help us understand the complex process of human development. The first of these perspectives is the learning paradigm perspective. Under this, ano na yung ating mga na-discuss? We discussed classical conditioning. We have also talked about operant conditioning. We also discussed social cognitive learning theory. And then we proceeded to the second perspective, sociocultural theories. Under this, we had sociocultural theory by Lev Vygotsky and yung katatapos lang natin, the one that we have just finished discussing, cognitive theory of development. So those are the first two paradigms, and that is why we are already in number 3. So under ethology, we will discuss the following. First, Konrad Lorenz theory, attachment theories. Yeah. So we have 3 under learning paradigms. We have 2 under sociocultural theories. We also have 2 under ethology, evolutionary and sociobiological paradigm. Okay, let us discuss the first theory under the ethology or evolutionary and sociobiological perspective. So under this theory by Konrad Lorenz, it is believed that organisms or species, animals, human beings, are equipped at birth to process certain information. Meaning at birth, they already have certain capabilities that will enable them to survive as organisms or as species. It is inborn, it is innate, meaning at birth, that capability is already within the individual, making him prepared or ready to respond to their needs as species. Especially those are physiological in nature, meaning especially those needs that are biological in nature. Para bang ganito, class? At birth, the child is already equipped with certain skills that he will need in order to survive. Say, for example, studies show that newborn infants can determine the location of the mother's breasts or the nipple. Kung kasi niya yun to survive, kailangan niya. So he is equipped with that skill. Maybe he can smell it. Maybe he can detect in some other way. But the point is that he automatically knows where it is. Hinahanap niya, parang alam niya kung saang direction siya babaling, no? Or the reflex actions of infants, no? When they are startled, they cover themselves with their hands, no? Para bang gusto nilang they appear to protect themselves, no? That is a very common instinct among human beings, because we need to protect ourselves, no? Yung instinct for self-preservation kicks in right away after birth. Pagkapanganak pa lang ay nandyan na kaagad sa kanya yung skills. Even before birth, no? Meron na kaagad silang mga innate skills. Yun ang ibig sabihin ni Konrad Lorenz. We are equipped with certain skills that are genetically constructed or built into us. Bakit binigyan tayo ng ganong mga innate skills? Because we need them to survive. Crying, we do not need to teach or train a child to cry. Automatic yan na umiyak ang bata because he needs it to make his needs known. When he is hungry, he cries. When he is thirsty, he cries. When he is wet, he cries. When he feels discomfort, he cries. Suppose he does not know how to cry at birth. Halimbawa, kunyari lang, for the sake of discussion, let us pretend that children do not know how to cry. Paano malalaman ng nanay kung siya ay gutom, siya ay basa, siya ay gustong dumingil, or kinagat ng lamok, mayroong discomfort? How will the caregiver, particularly the mother or the family, know? Di ba, mahirapan sila? So, the child is given that skill, that ability to make his needs known through crying. Caregivers can respond better in providing the needs of infants. Why? Because infants can already communicate their needs through these genetically constructed skills and capabilities. No? Kasama na yan sa kanilang sarili. At birth. Yeah. Yun ang theory ni Conrad Lawrence. And when we correlate this with other theories, no? Halimbawa, merong theory proposed by Noam Chomsky. He proposed that persons are equipped with a language acquisition device, yung LAD, L-A-D, language acquisition device. Chomsky believed that at birth, people already possess in themselves the ability to learn language. Nandun sa kanila yung innate, yung inherent, yung natural ability to learn language. And if you correlate this with our actual experiences, we will remember our own experiences in learning language. Our parents did not formally teach us how to speak. We just sort of woke up one morning already capable of speaking our first language. No? We did not have formal lessons. Diba? We grew up hearing bits and pieces of the language. A word here, a word there, a phrase here, a phrase there. We hear the sounds. We gradually understood the way we construct sentences using our language. And then after a while, marunong na tayo. Diba? We have that innate ability to learn language. We can correlate that with Lawrence theory, where he proposes that we are imbued with genetically constructed skills and capabilities that enable us to communicate our needs so that our survival as organisms will be ensured. Meaning we will have better chances of surviving with those capabilities, with those innate capabilities or skills or abilities within us. Pag wala tayong mga skills na gano'n, mahirapan tayo mag-survive. Okay? Let us next. Attachment theories. Hindi lang ito isang theory, but this is a collection, a group of theories. They are lumped together because of their commonality. What is that commonality? Their theories focus on attachment. These theories were from John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, and Melanie Klein. One of their tenets is that children develop a sense of emotional bond with the immediate caregiver. Okay. So, children tend to develop that bond, what's another word for bond? That strong relationship with the immediate caregiver. Yung nag-aalaga sa kanya, most commonly the mother. Pero hindi naman all the time yung nanay ang nag-aalaga, di ba? Sometimes it's the yaya or the housemaid or an aunt or a sister. So doon siya nagde-develop ng emotional bond. He develops a strong emotional attachment Yon. Kaya tinawag na attachment theories. Emotional bond or emotional attachment with the immediate caregiver. Most commonly or most especially the mother. And that is why it is very important for children to be taken care of personally by their mothers, no? Nakakalungkot naman kung mas close pa yung anak mo sa yaya niya kaysa sa iyo. Umiiyak siya pag kinakarga mo, pero pag doon sa yaya, tuwang-tuwa. Okay. So, the caregiver, whether it's a mother, it's a yaya, a babysitter, whatever, that person becomes a prototype. Ang ibig sabihin, class, that person becomes the model in terms of developing social connections in the future. Meaning, the ability of the child to develop and establish emotional connections or emotional bond with other people, other persons, when he grows up, will depend on the kind of relationship he establishes during infancy or childhood years. Para bang ganito? Are you familiar with the theory of Erik Erikson? Yung trust versus mistrust. Yeah. Conflict theory by Erik Erikson. Ba't tinawag na conflict theory? Because, according to him, each stage of development is characterized by two conflicting or opposing forces. Halimbawa, dito nga, children need to have that trust on the caregiver. However, there might be instances when the caregiver may not get that trust from the child because the caregiver does not give the kind of care or affection the child wants. Yeah. So instead of trusting the caregiver, halimbawa yaya, no? Opposing forces yan eh. There is a tendency for the child to trust the babysitter and also the tendency to mistrust her. Alin dyan ang magpiprevail? Sanang mananalo or magpiprevail between trust and mistrust? Yung pagtitiwala at walang tiwala, saan dyan ang magpiprevail? Saan dyan ang mangingibabaw sa bata? It will depend on it will depend on the caregiver's attitude or behavior towards the child. If the caregiver, the babysitter in this case, will give affection, will provide care for the child will begin to trust her. So, ang mangingibabaw sa bata ay trust. As he grows up, he will tend to trust people. Kasi yun ang unang naitanim sa kanya. Instead of mistrust, instead of fear, instead of doubt. Pero kapag ang caregiver, halimbawa yung babysitter, pinapalo siya. The babysitter hurts the child. The babysitter does not feed the child on time, so he goes hungry. So, ganun ang nangyari. So, anong magiging attitude ng bata towards the caregiver, the babysitter? Ay di negative attitude, mistrust. If that is repeatedly done a number of times, for enough number of times, the child will grow up mistrusting people. Yun kasi ang unang naitanim sa kanya. Yeah. So that is the relationship between Erik Erikson's conflict theory and the attachment theories by John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, and Melanie Klein. The ability to initiate, sustain, and end social relationships are based on the quality of initial relationship the mother has established. This is what I was saying just a while ago, class. A great deal of our behavior when we grow up, a great deal of behavior as the child grows up, is based on his initial relationship with the caregiver, whether it's the mother, whether it's the babysitter, whether it's the lola. Kasi very common sa ating mga Pilipino, no? Nay, hinanay bagas ano si Toto o si Nene. Ako busa ay matrabaho, ay wayat maalaga. No? That's very common. Bantayan po si baby, karga-karga, laro-laro, hanggang makauwi po ako mamayang hapon. So, that is repeated for several days, weeks. What happens is that the child grows closer to the lola than he is to the mother. So, depende sa relationship ng bata at lola. No? Kung mabait si lola, later the child will develop positive relationships with other people. Kasi madidevelop sa kanya yung tendency na magtiwala, mag-trust, because that is what he tasted, that is what he experienced from the caregiver, the grandmother. Pero pag si lola ay cruel, ayaw mong kumain ng gulay ha, kurot. Binasag mo yung vase ha, palo. Lalaki si Nene at si Toto without that tendency to trust people. He will be wary of people. Mahirapan siyang mag-establish ng mga relationship because his first tendency is to mistrust. Yun ang una niyang tendency. Okay, let us continue. Number 4 na kaagad. Ba't tayo kaagad nakarating ng number 4 sa system approach? Okay, style ko lang yan po para ma-review yung ating na-discuss na. So again, remember, we're talking about different perspectives in human development, different theories regarding human development that can help us understand the complex process of development. Ano nga ulit po yung nauna kanina? Bakit ako tanong ng tanong hindi naman kayo makakasagot sa akin? Learning paradigm. Okay. Nagjo-jokes lang po ako kasi soul ako dito sa aking classroom eh. Malungkot naman kung walang jokes. Excuse me. So under learning paradigm, we have classical conditioning, operant conditioning, social cognitive learning theory. So yun ang nasa ilalim ng number 1, learning paradigms. Number 2, we have sociocultural theories. Meron tayong dalawa. Sociocultural theory by Vygotsky, cognitive theory of development by Jean Piaget. And then katatapos lang natin yung number 3, ethology or evolutionary and sociobiological perspectives, under which we talk about Konrad Lorenz theory and attachment theories. Kaya tayo nakarating ng number 4, system approach. So under number 4, we'll talk about contextualism theory, and the other one is ecological system theory. Okay. Under the system approach perspective, we are given an integrated view about human development. When we integrate something into something else, what we are doing is we are combining them. No, we are combining them. So this system approach is a combination of different influences or different factors affecting human development. So the first important thing we should understand here is that according to the system approach theory, the human person is the product of the interaction of nature and nurture. Itong nature, these are factors that come to us naturally, through heredity, through normal or natural development, things within us, in other words, our innate capabilities. These are all covered by the term nature. Yun namang nurture, this refers to everything outside us. This refers to our environment, whether it is our physical environment, whether it is our social environment, or whether it's our psychological environment. Yeah. These are the two major forces that shape or determine the development of a human person: nature and nurture. According to this perspective, the human person, the individual, is a product of the context in which he is situated. Context is simply another word for environment. Pag sinabing context, this refers to the different circumstances in which the individual is situated. Yung kanyang cultural background, yung kanyang historical background, family background, yung financial background ng kanilang family, lahat ng bagay in his environment. Context yan. Every event, all the circumstances, all the situations, all the conditions surrounding the individual. As he grows up, we call it context. According to this theory, the individual, the human person, is a product of this context, this environment. In addition, of course, to his natural, physical, or biological attributes. Ayan. So, balik tayo doon sa nature and nurture. The human person is a product of nurture and nature. Nature and nurture, whichever you'd like to mention first. No? So, ganun yun. The influence of nature and nurture are the forces, or is the force that determine how we are going to develop as individuals. Yung nature, parang ganito, nakamana ka ng mga attributes or characteristics from your parents. Intelligence, artistic abilities, nature lahat yun kasi hindi yun ang galing sa labas. Paglabas mo sa mundo, when you were born, it's already there. Yeah, nature yun, natural yun na napunta sa'yo. Yeah. Yun namang nurture, what's outside the person, yung kanyang environment. So what kind of environment will he grow up in? Is he going to grow up in a caring, supportive, affectionate, loving family? O, edi yung kanyang natural capabilities mari-reinforce, mai-enhance. So in that case, nagtulungan yung nature and nurture for the child's development. Yun. Pwede ring mag-oppose, conflict yung nature at saka nurture. A child may possess at birth certain characteristics such as artistic capabilities or intelligence. But as he grows up, he is exposed to, say, a filthy environment, to an impoverished environment. Matalino sana yung bata, kaya lang hindi nakapag-aral, walang maglibro sa bahay, walang school sa kanilang lugar kasi nandun sila sa 17 bundok. Kung nabigyan na ng pagkataon, matalino sana. But yung kanyang nurture, yung kanyang environment, yung kanyang circumstances in life did not agree with, did not work in favor of developing further that intelligence. So, nature and nurture can either reinforce each other, they can either help each other, or they can oppose each other. They can try to cancel each other. No? Halimbawa, lumaki naman sa isang napakagandang environment. Maganda yung eskwelahan, kompleto ng learning materials at home, kompleto ng mga gamit. Kung wala namang natural intelligence, ay mahirapan din siyang matuto. No? Kahit parang ganito, meron kayong calculator sa bahay. Hindi ka naman marunong gumamit ng calculator. Hindi pa rin matututo. Sa bagay, pwede pag-aaralan niyo. So, that is what I wanted to say, no? About nature and nurture. About systems approach, I mean. The whole point there is that the product, I mean the individual, is a product both of his biological and natural attributes plus his context or his environment, nature and nurture. Okay, so ito ulit tayo. Development is shaped by factors such as genes. Do you still remember what we have already said about genes? They are the carriers of heredity. The character traits, the traits of the parents are transferred to their offspring or their children through heredity. And that becomes possible, that happens because of the genes contained in the chromosomes, which in turn are contained in the cells. Yeah. So, this is basically still about nature and nurture. Oh, genes, nature, culture, nurture. Kasi yung culture, it comes from without, it comes from outside the individual. Pagkapanganak sa atin, meron tayong mga genes. Wala pang culture. Culture will come later as we grow up and as we learn about it from our surroundings, from our environment. See? Learning also contributes to human development. No. Naturally, the more we learn, the more knowledgeable we become, the more well-developed we become. And of course, learning in turn is affected or influenced by many different factors. Okay, so that is all about the system approach. Let's talk about the first theory under the system approach. Contextualism theory of Richard Lerner. Okay. This theory highlights the embeddedness of the organism within the context. Embeddedness. We are embedded into the context. We are embedded. We are immersed into our cultural, historical, social environment. Diba sabi natin kanina, the individual is a product of natural or genetic traits or characteristics and the context or the environment. So, our behavior, including our development, is greatly influenced or affected by the context or environment. The circumstances, the condition, the situations, the different experiences we go through life. These are all part of our context. And naturally, they will exert a very strong influence on the way we develop. Kasi nga, mga major factors in shaping the individual. Sabi nga ng ibang mga thinkers, meaning human beings, no? Human beings are a product of their experiences. And our experiences are determined by the kind of environment or context we are in. So in order to understand the individual, in order to understand our learners, we should know the situation they are in. We should know the situation they come from. Yung mga personal circumstances ba nila. Say for example, you have a learner, you have a pupil who always comes late. Palaging late sa first period sa umaga. Tapos pag dumarating siya, mahina, parang matamlay. Matamlay siya. Para siyang very lethargic. Nagpapangyangsi pa, namumutla. Huwag mo namang kagalitan kaagad at huwag mo namang murahin kaagad. Hi, late try ka? Anong klase ka? Palagi ka na lang late. Nagpapangyangsi ka pa kung papanaw, pa ikaw ipaler. Pauli ang ihag to senro. Yun pala yung bata. Malayo ang pinanggagalingan. Galing siya sa malayong baryo. Galing siya sa malayong barangay. And what's worse, he leaves their house, he leaves their home without having breakfast. Kasi mahirap lang po sila. Walang pang-almusal, kahit pambili ng Nescafe stick. Yung maliit na kape parang stick. I think that's 5 pesos yung 2 piraso. Wala po silang ganun. Ultimo, kaning lamig ay wala. Kasi naubos the night before yung kanilang kanin. Walang isasangag. Hindi rin pwede magsaing. Why? Wala po kasing bigas. So, intindihin po natin muna yung sitwasyon ng ating mga pupils. Huwag tayong magalit kaagad sa kanila at huwag silang i-discourage natin. No? That is how we can correlate this or connect this to our work as teachers later. Or yung bata na palaging active sa klase, palaging matataas ang grade. And then all of a sudden, he gets poor grades, he gets uninterested in the lesson. Tanungin mo muna, baka may problema sa bahay, may personal problem siya, meron siyang dinadalang mabigat sa kanyang dibdib. So, let us try to know their circumstances. Let us try to know the context. Yeah. So that we can give them assistance, we can give them advice, we can give them encouragement, we can probably inspire them. No? If we are very good at doing it, siguro ma-inspire pa natin sila through our advice, through our concern that we are going to show them. Kuminsan yung mga bata naghahanap ng attention yan. Hindi nabibigyan ng attention sa bahay, sa school hinahanap. That is why sa mga elementary pupils, no, this is very common. Yung mga bata, sometimes they make lambing to the teacher, no. Naglalambing kay ma'am, naglalambing kay sir, kasi hindi niya nakukuha yung ganong pagmamahal sa bahay. So, doon niya hinahanap sa school yung love, yung care, yung affection. Lalapit lapit kay ma'am, maringos-ringos, o lalapit kay sir, maglalambing. Ay kung napagalitan yun, huwag kang lalapit sa akin. Ang dungis-dungis mo, ang dumi-dumi ang baho-baho. Marurumihan itong aking uniform. Kawawa naman yung bata. Naghahanap ka ng pagmamahal eh. Ang nakuha ay rejection. So, ganun po yun. The context may not necessarily be the same from time to time and from person to person. It can be expected that development will have variations among individuals. The main idea here is that people grew up in different circumstances. People grow up under different conditions, situations, different background, different kinds of environment, different contexts. And so therefore, people develop at different rates, different ways. That is why there are children who easily learn how to read, while others find or need more time, more practice, more examples, more assistance from the teacher. So, illogical po yung, bakit ikaw, Juan, ang bagal mong babasa? Si Pedro mabilis eh. Ikaw ang hina-hina mo. Iba yung circumstances ni Juan kay Pedro. Iba yung kanyang context. Iba naman yung context kay Pedro. Okay? So let us, the whole point here is, let us know the context. Let us know the circumstances. Let us know the situation. Let us know the experiences, the background of our learner. so that we will understand their behavior. Okay, so here's another one. The Ecological System Theory by Yuri Bronfenbrenner. Okay, so according to Bronfenbrenner, there are 4 systems that work in the development of an individual. Namely, the microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and later he added the chronosystem. According to Bronfenbrenner, these are the systems that shape, that influence, that determine the development of an individual. Let us talk about them one by one. Okay, let us discuss the first one, microsystem. This refers to the different changes that takes place within the individual. Kaya nga tinawag siyang microsystem. It takes place within the individual. What are these changes, class? Well, these changes can be in many forms. First, this can refer to physical changes. Change in height, no? As the person grows up, he gains height, he gains weight, his body shape or body mass changes. These are all microsystems or part of the microsystem, specifically with regards to physical changes. These changes may also be cognitive in nature. At first, the baby may not be able to process complex information, but as he or she grows older and more matured, she becomes capable of processing hypothetical propositions or statements. So that is a cognitive change. These changes may also come in the form of, say, emotional changes. As a child, he may not be able to manage or control his outbursts or his emotions. As he grows up, as he matures, he becomes more capable of putting his emotions in check. Nakokontrol niya yung kanyang emotion, yung kanyang outbursts, namamanage niya, in other words, yung kanyang mga feelings and emotions. These changes are all part of the microsystem. As the individual develops, a multitude of these changes will take place within him. All of these changes, I repeat, are all covered by the term microsystem. One of the systems or one of the major forces that influence the development of an individual. Aside from the microsystem, we also have the mesosystem. This refers to the immediate environment of the child, such as the family, immediate environment, their neighbors, his or her friends, classmates or teachers in school. All of these things are part of the mesosystem. And these have direct influence on the child's development. Especially parents. Parents really exert a very strong influence on the development of the child, particularly in the initial stages, particularly in the early years of the child's life. Parents, the family as a whole, exerts a very strong influence on the child. As a matter of fact, in most cases, the child's behavior outside the home is just a reflection of the culture of the family, the behavior of the entire family. Nagkaroon ka ng pupil na magalang, malumanay magsalita. In dealing with his friends, he is considerate, he is kind, he is friendly. Most probably, the attitude of the entire family is similar to that. Kasi hindi yun makikita, hindi yun matututuhan ng bata if he did not see or observe that kind of behavior with other or from other family members. Yun ang na-absorb niya eh. Ay di ibig sabihin, yun ang kanyang nakita. What the child observes, he absorbs and learns. Di ba yung theory ni Albert Bandura? Social learning theory. Learning by or through observation and imitation. So going back to our topic, the mesosystem consists of the immediate environment, such as the family or the parents, siblings, neighbors, friends, and school personnel. No? Yung mga neighbors and friends, malakas din ang influence. No? Kaya kung may kapitbahay kang chismos at palagi ka doon, ay matututo kang mag-chismis. Okay. Next, the exosystem. This refers to the social institutions that may have indirect impact, indirect influence or effect onto the child's development. Examples of these are school policies, employment setup, mass media, and other similar agencies. No? The exosystem. So, the exosystem is already outside the individual. The exosystem is already outside the family, school, church, neighbors, friends, his immediate environment. The exosystem now includes a bigger units, such as the social institutions prevailing in his context. School policies, no, exosystem. Hindi eskwelahan na. Yung eskwelahan mismo, it's part of the mesosystem. Yung school grounds, mga buildings, mga classmates, teachers, mesosystem yon. Pero pagdating doon sa mga policies, mga regulations, ay kasama na siya sa exosystem. Halimbawa, may mga policies ang school na may pagka-stricto, bawal magpahaba ng buhok. May epekto yun sa behavior and development of the child. Employment setup sa mga adults. Ano ang sitwasyon sa trabaho? May epekto yan sa ating behavior. Mass media, okay, this is very common nowadays. Our behavior is shaped by what we see in the mass media. Lalo yung mga bata, kung ano yung nakita sa TV, they will imitate them. Nakakita ng mga K-pop drama stars. Iba-iba ang kulay ng buhok, parang rainbow. The following day, gano'n na ang kulay ng kanyang buhok, parang rainbow. Yung mga bata pa naman ngayon, baliw na baliw sa kultura ng ibang bansa, particularly the Koreans. No? Epekto po yan ng mass media. Kita sa TV, kita sa movies, kita sa internet. So, we can see the effect of their behavior. No? Ginagaya nila yung kanilang mga idols, ginagaya nila yung kanilang mga heroes. Yung kanilang behavior, pananamit, pananalita, ba? Nagko-Korean. Kunyari, Korean, hindi naman Korean, Pinoy siya. Why does he behave like that? Because he is influenced or affected by the exosystem, specifically the mass media. Okay. And then we have the macro system. Ito mas malawak pa ito. Sociological, political, cultural, and economic factors that may have impact on the development of the child. The sociological circumstances surrounding the child. Ano ang kalagayan ng lipunan na kanyang kinabibilangan? Ano yung mga political events or political situations that prevail in the society? Halimbawa, isang taong lumaki sa isang bansa where martial law exists, his behavior naturally will be affected by that. Pwedeng siya ay maging submissive kasi lumaki siyang sumusunod sa mga police, sa mga government officials, martial law eh. Pag nagreklamo ka, ay deadball ka. So, ganun ang kanyang behavior. Bakit? Because of the political circumstances he grew up in. Cultural and economic factors. Yung ating kultura, may epekto din yan sa atin. Why do Filipinos believe in superstitious beliefs? Yan ang kultura natin. Tinuro ni Lola kay Nanay, tinuro naman ni Nanay sa atin. So yun, di natapos-tapos ang ating mga superstitious beliefs. Bawal kumanta in front of the stove while cooking. Makakapag-asawa ka ng balo. Di ba? Bawal magwali sa gabi. Lalabas ang swerte. Daming bawal. Bawal isukat ang damit pang kasal because the wedding will be canceled. Bakit ganun ang ating behavior? Because that is a part of our culture. In order to change that behavior, we should change our culture. Macro system. Pasok yung panglima, yung chrono system. And what is it in the first place? Okay. It is the interaction or relationship among the other systems, especially with regards to time component. Chrono, time po yan. Chrono means time. Nung unang panahon, ang tawag sa mga watches, mga relo, ay chronometer because they are devices used to measure time. So, chrono system is the interaction or relationship among the other systems. Yung mga microsystem, yung mga mesosystem, yung mga exosystem, yung mga macrosystem, they interact with one another. They have a kind of relationship. That interaction or relationship is what we call the chrono system. Example tayo. Basa. When a law, which is a part of the macro system, no? Di ba kanina, in our previous discussion, yung mga policies, mga batas, they are part of the macro system. When a law is passed modifying the number of working days of employees, it will have impact on the policies of labor organizations. Ito namang mga labor organizations, mga policies nila, they are part of the exosystem. So mayroon ng relationship yung macro system at saka exosystem. Yung macro system affects the exosystem, to which one's parents may be employed. Doon nagtatrabaho yung mga parents ng bata, doon sa labor organization, under those policies. Nagbago ng batas, mababago ngayon yung mga policies. Halimbawa, the parents, which is part of the mesosystem, di ba? Immediate environment, the family, the school, the church, neighbors and friends, puro yan sa mesosystem. The parents will be able to spend more time or less time with the child. Kasi binago yung number of working days of employees. Sa halip na 5 days in 1 week sila magtatrabaho, 4 na lang. So there was a change in the macro system. Ano ang naging epekto sa kanila? Unang-una, yung exosystem was affected. Kasi yung labor organization, sanay sila na 5 araw nagtatrabaho. Ngayon ay 4 na araw na lang. Ano ang mangyayari? Yung mga parents who are part of the mesosystem will have more time for the child. Kasi 4 na araw magtatrabaho na lang Yung ika-5 araw, they can spend that for or with their child. As a result, the child's basic needs, yung basic needs niya, mga microsystem na yan. Kasi it's within him. It's inside him. At dahil nandiyan ang parents, his microsystem, specifically his basic needs, will be attended to by the parents. Meaning, the parents will be able to provide better care to their child. And the result of all of this is better development. Paano napunta sa better development? Because of the interaction, because of the relationship among the 4 systems: macro, exo, meso, micro system. Yung interaction na yon, yung relationship na yon, ang tawag natin ay chrono system. So, yan po, yung 5 systems influencing, determining, or shaping human development according to Bronfenbrenner. Okay, here is a graphical representation of those systems. Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory. So, you will see that the individual is at the center of all these systems. The individual with all the character traits, the characteristics, the innate qualities and attributes, with all the changes taking place and happening within him, those are all part of the micro system. The immediate family, child care center or school, the neighborhood, they are all part of the meso system. Friends and neighbors, immediate family, neighborhood play area, child care center or school, they are all part of the meso system. And of course, we cannot deny the fact that these institutions, these groups of people exert a very strong impact or influence on the development of the child, lalo yung immediate family, yung neighborhood din, yung schools din, yung mga friends niya, as already mentioned in our previous discussion. The environment, the context of the child's development does not end there, because in addition to the microsystem, in addition to the mesosystem, he is also immersed or embedded into the exosystem. Ano nga ulit ito? Yung mga policies, mga regulations, yung mga workplace, community health services, yan, these are all part of the exosystem. Neighborhood and... No. Laws, yon. Nandun sa bandang laws. And then, yung microsystem naman, yung microsystem, yung mga regulations, yung mga laws, kasama din sa kanya. Sa macrosystem pala. Sa macrosystem, they fall within the macrosystem. Yung mga laws, yung mga policies, yung mga regulations. No? Hindi natin matrace dito eh. Yun. Yung exosystem, the workplace is already part of the exosystem as seen in our illustration. Hagip sila nung oval eh. Community health services. Sa mesosystem, yung child care center, immediate family, friends and neighbors, they are all part of the mesosystem. Yung immediate family is part of the mesosystem, no? Immediate family, the father, the mother, and siblings. But among us Filipinos, meron tayong extended family, relatives, no? Sina uncle, sina auntie, sina tito, sina tita, extended family yon. They are already part of the exosystem. Exosystem. So we can see here the interaction among the different systems. Yung kanilang interaction, yung kanilang relationship, we call that chronos system. No? Chronos system. So this illustrates to us Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory. Let us review. Remember, we are talking about the different perspectives in human development. And so far, we already have discussed the different learning paradigms. Under this, we discussed classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov, operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner, and social cognitive learning theory by Albert Bandura. The second perspective is sociocultural theories. We have the sociocultural theory of Lev Vygotsky, the cognitive theory of development by Jean Piaget, no? And then ethology, evolutionary and sociobiological perspectives, Konrad Lorenz theory, attachment theories, yung tatlong psychologists kanina, and then we have the system approach, contextualism theory, and ecological system theory by Bronfenbrenner. So yan po lahat ang mga perspectives in human development, at least the most common ones, no? Kasi meron pang iba, hindi lang nasama sa ating lecture, wala siya sa ating reference book. And I think these are the most important ones, no? So yan sila, perspectives in human development. Okay? Okay, so once again, we have come to the end of our lecture. I hope that I have shared something to you regarding the different approaches and perspectives in human development. No, I hope that we are now better equipped to understand our learners, better equipped to provide them or give them learning experiences that are tailored to their nature as learners, specifically their needs, their interests, and their abilities. No? That's the whole point of what we are doing here. We are trying to understand the nature of our learner, particularly those that affect their cognitive, emotional, physical development. No? Because we are going to deal with these things as they attend our classes daily. So hanggang dito lang po muna ulit. Ingat po tayo lahat palagi, no? Let us all stay safe. That will be all for now. God bless everyone.